All right, welcome back. What we'll do is just really quickly actually round out this lecture um, of our examination of the domestic Americas and European discovery. Hopefully, you're getting a good sense here of the influence, the impact of this age of exploration and early discovery um, on the part of the Europeans here. Um, So just to finish up with this Atlantic economy and the this political model, you might say, of mercantilism. Mercantilism would be in place and be kind of the um, operating kind of system, if you will, of the economic order for Europe from this time, the basically the 16th century, up until the age of Adam Smith and kind of more laissez-faire economics of a free market system. We'll get into aspects of that, of course, in the coming weeks. But here with mercantilism, it is primarily again a an arrangement in which the state and the private sector would work together very closely to support. The state would support the organization and perpetuation of things like monopolies, commercial monopolies, um, and so that the private sector would benefit from that, but also the state would benefit from that uh, as well. So it was a very kind of mutually beneficial type of arrangement. And it's also survival of the fittest in many cases as well, as far as, if you are able to have access to what you need and to remain competitive and at the forefront of, um, you know, power politics and have access to the markets and well, I should say the resources for your own market, then that was going to be to your benefit. As you might expect, this is going to uh, contribute to an increasingly and escalating sense of international tension and rivalry, specifically with regard to the great powers of Europe. So very quickly, once Spain and began to demonstrate just how lucrative and how wealthy it was becoming from its territorial colonial holdings, imperial holdings in the New World, it was imperative that Europe, or excuse me, England, France, and the Netherlands, among others, also throw their hat in the ring as far as becoming colonial and imperial powers themselves. When that happens and they begin to lay claim to various spheres of influence within the Western Hemisphere, uh, it isn't too long before those claims become overlapping claims, and this is going to result in clashes, both in the New World between settlements competing for those over those overlapping claims, but then also clashes back in Europe between the host or sponsoring countries as well. So here you can begin to see the connections between disparate aspects of world history that begin to have pretty significant impacts and influences on each other. Europe's continued interest, if not outright obsession, with China leads to new avenues of exploration. Native American civilizations, advanced as they were, um, and although in some cases highly unified in examples in Central and South America, remained largely isolated when it came to global access and global perspective. And so this provides us with a sense of relativity that, um, uh, advanced as civilizations can be, oftentimes if civilizations or states are not actively kind of engaged in broadening horizons or reaching out, establishing contacts with others, then this is going to, in many cases, sacrifice the initiative to those that do. And so, as a result, what this means is that, and I think I mentioned this kind of in the closing arguments or aspects of the last lecture that with regard to China and Europe, that Europe was increasingly beginning to kind of reach out to the rest of the world during this period of time, again for a variety of reasons. Um, but um, and at the same time that roughly China was beginning to contract and turn inward within itself and trying to be self-sustaining, self-sufficient. When that happens, you are, if you're going to be inward facing, then that means that those that are kind of more expansive, more expanding kind of influence, they're going to have, in many cases, the advantage or the initiative when it comes to determining the relationship once contact is made and established. And that's exactly what we see when it comes to the exploration and the kind of, again, discovery, in air quotes, of the New World by the Europeans. So you get a wider sense of the world beginning to intrude and impose itself upon others. The constituent pieces of civilization of a larger whole, kind of can play a pretty influential factor. Well, this also gets to the velocity of events that, again, continually define and mark our contemporary era. That there are parallels to the experiences of 1492 and the years following that kind of resonate and echo in our own time. Connection and interaction, contact, um, can have consequences not only in affecting and destroying not just the physical environment, but also the political environment as well, and the cultural environment. And of course, as part of the physical environment, then we're basically talking about the natural environment itself, the ecology. And with it comes this acceleration of unintended consequences. From being unconscious of effects, in many cases, what the experiences that were encapsulate the time in which we just covered here in this lecture, um, to being uncaring of effects. As people become increasingly kind of aware of what is going on, um, and then just simply turning a blind eye or an uncaring eye towards, having any type of adverse effect. This increasingly demonstrates the need for things like awareness and understanding that in many cases define the conversation of the 21st century with regard to interactions between various parts of the world. Okay, so hopefully here you're getting a sense of the connectiveness, the connective kind of qualities here that I staked out at the initial um, orientation of the course itself. All right, so I'll leave things there with this last fourth part, the wrapping up of the this lecture, and begin to turn attention towards in the next lecture talking about Africa, the Middle East, India, and East Asia, to kind of drill down a bit on the experiences and the kind of historical um, turning points and experiences coming out of those parts of the world, roughly at about the same period of time as far as the chronology is concerned. Okay, so I will see you in the next lecture.